At 1:40 a.m., approximately 1.7 miles from the Russian naval base at Novorossiysk on the Black Sea, the Russian Navy Kilo-class submarine B-271 Kolpino lay at periscope depth of about 130 feet, quietly completing its final battery charge. In 47 minutes by plan, it would launch 4 Caliber cruise missiles to plunge the target area into darkness. That launch never happened. Ukrainian forces had locked onto the submarine 18 minutes earlier, giving Kolpino an effective remaining lifespan of just 31 minutes. Before continuing, comment 2 if you support Ukraine, 3 if you support Russia, and 4 if you support peace.
96 hours earlier, in the SBU Operations Center in Kyiv, a red icon pulsed on the tactical display over Novorossiysk as U.S. satellite data confirmed B-271 Kolpino had sorted to its firing position. Ukraine had tracked the boat for 8 months and knew its record: 37 cruise missile strikes against civilian targets since March 2024. This was the perfect revenge opportunity, but also a lethal puzzle: how to kill a submarine engineered to be invisible to sonar. The Kilo class, nicknamed Black Hole for its anechoic rubber coating, was effectively a ghost to traditional underwater detection systems. SBU planners inverted the problem. Instead of hunting the submarine with sonar, they would first blind the defenses, then strike. On the map, a red circle enclosed Novorossiysk port, marking the Zarya Harbor Defense Sonar Array, a $65 million underwater sensor network. Any Ukrainian unmanned underwater vehicle, UUV, approaching while Zarya was active would be detected in seconds and destroyed. This was not a standard submarine hut, but a cold, two-phase operation. Neutralize the eyes first, then kill the beast.
96 hours before Kolpino's scheduled launch, at an FSB checkpoint on the Russia-Georgia border, a commercial Kamaz truck carrying frozen fish from Crimea cleared inspection. Russian guards opened the cargo hold and saw only 40 foam boxes of frozen tuna from Sevastopol. They did not notice the false floor beneath the real fish, or what lay under it, the opening move in a layered assassination. Concealed in the truck were one 1,875-pound Sea Baby surface drone carrying a 660-pound RDX warhead, 3 Beaver FPV suicide drones, each with 33-pound explosive payloads, an AES-256 encrypted military Starlink terminal, and a high-powered infrared laser designator. The entire package cost less than $47,000, yet its purpose was to destroy a $65 million defense system and clear the way for a follow-on strike worth $450 million, an asymmetric return on investment bordering on the absurd.
At 10:15 p.m., on a deserted beach 6.8 miles from Novorossiysk, in total darkness with no streetlights or cameras, 3 SBU operators silently launched the Sea Baby. The control system came alive, and in Ukraine, a green status line appeared on the Starlink screen. Ghost 1, ready to launch. The drone slipped into the water without engine noise or light, leaving only the soft splash against its black composite hull. Once clear of the shore, it entered ghost mode. Electric motors off, drifting with the current at 2.1 knots. No GPS, no Starlink, no RF emissions, just inertial navigation and magnetic compass. Radar-absorbent coating made it indistinguishable from drifting wood or marine debris to Russian coastal radars. The plan was simple, but demanded absolute patience over 5 hours and 30 minutes. Sea Baby would drift nearly 6.2 miles, closing on Zarya without ever revealing self. This was not about speed, it was the art of invisibility.
The Zarya Harbor Defense Sonar was not merely an early warning system. It was the heart of Novorossiysk's protection. 6 hydrophone clusters continuously listened, from low-frequency diesel rumble to high-frequency marine life. AI matched every sound against tens of thousands of stored signatures, producing almost zero false alarms. Fishing boats and whales were filtered instantly, but a UUV's distinctive electric motor signature would trigger a red alert and launch patrol craft in 90 seconds. On paper, Zarya was near perfect. Its fatal flaw, however, was equally simple. It was fixed hardware, and fixed hardware can be destroyed.
At 11:47 p.m., after 5 hours and 32 minutes of silent drift, Sea Baby reached a position 0.54 nautical miles from Zarya, optimal attack range. A critical complication emerged. On the hill behind the port, a Panzer S-1 air defense system scanned the sky 24/7. Any motor start would produce a thermal spike detectable by infrared sensors, and a 57E6 missile would erase the drone in under 6 seconds. Sea Baby could not close further, but it did not need to. 2 pieces were already in place. 16 minutes later, from 2.6 miles offshore, 2 Beaver FPV drones launched simultaneously, flying low at 50 feet, below low-level radar coverage. They did not target Zarya, but struck the 2 substations supplying power to the entire naval base. This was the move Russia did not anticipate: attack the power grid to enable the underwater fight.
Beaver 1 slammed into the eastern substation. Its 33-pound warhead detonated, igniting transformer oil in a pillar of flame that tore open the night. 4 seconds later, Beaver 2 hit the western substation. The base grid overloaded, breakers tripped, and Novorossiysk Naval Base plunged into darkness. Lights failed, radars went dead, cameras went blind, and Zarya went silent. Backup power began to spin up, but the system required exactly 80 seconds to restore full operation. That was the window Sea Baby had waited for.
At 12:07 a.m., after more than 5.5 hours motionless, Sea Baby spun up its electric motors to maximum power. Twin 20-horsepower propulsors drove it forward at 45 knots, straight toward Zarya. Impact, if all went well, would occur in 47 seconds. Ukraine's margin was 33 seconds. In war, no second is truly safe. With the base blacked out, Russian forces executed emergency protocol. A Ka-27PL anti-submarine helicopter spooled up for immediate launch. Its Octopus M radar quickly acquired the fast-moving surface target. The helicopter descended to drop sonar buoys. If the buoys went active, Sea Baby would be torpedoed in under 30 seconds. At that moment, Ukraine played its final card.
At 12:08 a.m., from the shoreline, the 3rd Beaver launched in an emergency strike, streaking toward the hottest thermal signature in the sky, the Ka-27's tail rotor. The Russian crew, focused entirely on the surface threat, never saw death approaching from behind. Less than a minute later, Beaver 3 impacted the tail rotor. The explosion destroyed balance control. The helicopter spun out and executed a forced landing, still carrying its full weapons load. The aerial threat was neutralized. Sea Baby was now 525 feet from Zarya. The sonar array was 80% restored and seconds from full operation. It never regained sight. At 12:10 a.m., Sea Baby struck the concrete base of the hydrophone cluster. Approximately 660 pounds of RDX detonated underwater. Shockwaves propagated far faster than in air. High-pressure gas bubbles expanded and collapsed in violent pulses, shattering structures like snapping a giant bone. All 6 sonar clusters were crushed, fiber optic cables severed, and the 44-ton foundation collapsed to the seabed. 1 second later, the central command screen flashed red and went dark. In that instant, Novorossiysk Naval Base was completely blind to subsurface threats.
The action continued. At 12:12 a.m., 9.5 nautical miles east of the Sea Baby detonation, another shadow began to move through the ink-black water. This was not Sea Baby, but Sub-Sea Baby,
a miniature submarine built for one purpose, to hunt B-271 Culpino. Cylindrical, black, 2 feet in diameter and 14 feet long. Total weight approximately 4,850 pounds, including a 550-pound shaped charge RDX warhead, 1,760-pound lithium-ion battery pack, control systems, and sound-absorbing composite hull. Subsea Baby was propelled by twin electric motors delivering 21 horsepower total, enabling 4 knots in silent long-range mode, and sprinting to 25 knots for short attacks. It was guided by autonomous AI that listened but never transmitted, using passive sonar, ultra-sensitive 4K low-light cameras, thermal sensors to detect objects warmer than seawater, and inertial navigation accurate to within 1 foot after several miles.
Its mission had been programmed 96 hours earlier. Infiltrate Novorossiysk, await confirmation of Zarya destruction, locate B-271 Culpino, and terminate it. At the critical moment, an encrypted message from Kyiv arrived via undersea fiber optic cable. Zarya neutralized. Execute Phase 2. Subsea Baby quietly entered the harbor at 115 feet depth. With Zarya silent, it moved like a ghost. No sonar heard it. No patrol craft was alerted. Most importantly, Culpino still believed it was alone in safe darkness.
At 1:47 a.m., after 1 hour and 35 minutes of passive sonar sweeping, Subsea Baby detected a distinctive, regular, clearly unnatural rhythm. A 33 Hz tone repeating every 1.2 seconds. From bearing 287 degrees, range 1.3 nautical miles, depth estimated 125 to 140 feet. AI matched the signature with 94.7% confidence. A Kilo-class diesel-electric submarine with both DL-42M generators running at low speed for battery charging. It was Culpino. Subsea Baby altered course, closing at 4 knots while maintaining absolute silence, slipping into the baffles, the sonar blind spot astern, where the target's own propulsion noise masked any approach. This was the same tactic Western submarines once used against Soviet boats in the Cold War. Ukraine was now applying the lesson.
At 2:30 a.m. inside Culpino, Captain Dmitry Sokolov completed final checks for the caliber launch coordinates. 39 minutes remained until surfacing to launch depth. The control room was quiet. All 38 crewmen followed routine procedures, unawares of the stalker astern. 47 seconds later, sonar operator Alexei Petrov froze at his MGK 400EM display. A faint echo appeared astern at 3,940 feet, weak enough to blend with background noise, but AI flagged it as a potential threat with 67% confidence. Petrov reported. The captain knew most such contacts in the Black Sea were marine life or debris, but the rest could be lethal. He ordered immediate anti-torpedo countermeasures. Culpino reacted in seconds, deploying MG-74 acoustic decoys, port and starboard, that simulated engine noise more than 1,300 feet from hull. Simultaneously, the Prairie Masker system pumped microbubbles to scatter sonar returns and blur the submarine's acoustic signature. Ballast tanks flooded, adding 132 tons in under 20 seconds, driving the boat from 130 feet to 256 feet. Diesel shut down, batteries took over, and all non-essential systems went cold. Noise level dropped nearly to 0.
3 minutes later, Subsea Baby reached ideal position, 6 feet below the target, 1,310 feet off the stern. At 2:09 a.m., it shifted to attack sprint, motors to full power, speed 25 knots, closing the final gap in 31 seconds. At 490 feet range, Culpino's final red alert flashed. Petrov shouted as he realized something was charging from astern, but the submarine needed at least 40 seconds to turn meaningfully. Subsea Baby needed only 18. At 2:11 a.m., it struck the main battery compartment. Kinetic energy alone at 25 knots caused catastrophic damage, but the kill came from the 550-pound shaped charge RDX warhead. On impact, the casing shattered, the piezoelectric fuse fired, and the copper liner collapsed into a super-velocity plasma jet that penetrated HY-80 steel. Externally, the hull showed only a small hole. Internally, the pressure hull ruptured violently.
In that instant, the black hole lost its stealth. Superheated steam and burning gases flooded the weapons bay. One Test 71 torpedo detonated, then another, triggering a sympathetic explosion equivalent to more than 4 tons of TNT. Shockwaves tore the steel hull, crumpling the remainder and breaking the Kilo-class submarine into 3 sections in under 4 seconds. On the surface, a massive water plume erupted, visible to Russian patrol craft more than 1 mile away. Their radio calls came too late. The wreck sank to over 394 feet, trailing huge mud clouds. No crewmen escaped. When the sea finally calmed, the loss was total. One Kilo-class submarine worth nearly $500 million, its caliber missiles, advanced batteries, and Novorossiysk sonar shield, all gone in a single night. Ukraine's expenditure? A few $100,000 in drones and logistics. A cost-to-damage ratio that would make any military planner shudder. That night, Ukraine rewrote a rule of modern warfare. You do not need a fleet to sink a submarine. You only need to blind the enemy and let artificial intelligence finish the job. If you were Putin, how would you now protect the 2 remaining Kilo-class submarines in the Black Sea after Ukraine just proved 3 undeniable facts? They can blind sonar simply by striking power infrastructure. They can hunt submarines with multi-sensor AI instead of traditional sonar. And they can sneak into the baffles astern, where every submarine is defenseless. So what do you choose? More patrols? New sonar layers? Or accepting the hard truth that the seabed is no longer absolutely safe? Comment your defensive strategy. We will read them all. Comment 2 if you support Ukraine, 3 if you support Russia, and 4 if you support peace.